Hello there, YouTube. We are back with the third installment of our Road to Nat series. We're now officially less than a month away from the big tournament itself, and I'm super excited, a little bit nervous, but overall really pumped and hyped to go to Bandai Card Fest in Orlando on January 4th. I'm also looking forward to seeing some of you guys there, so like I said before, if you recognize us, you see us, feel free to just stop us and say hi. You know, it's great meeting some of you guys, and it's awesome seeing some of our supporters and channel members out there. So please do shout us out. We'd love to meet you guys over there. But anyhows, you know, for some of our newer viewers, the purpose of this series and the goal of these videos is to really kind of showcase my preparations for Nats and kind of walk you guys through how I'm going about preparing for it, how I'm going and approaching certain matchups, particularly against some of the more meta picks in this meta right now. As we get into the end of the competitive season. As most of you know, I am a huge Mirage apologist, so I will probably be playing some iteration or some concoction of Mirage at Nats. As I fine-tune my list, the most up-to-date list is going to be posted right here. I've messed around with a few of the top-end ratios, as well as thrown in the new ZKmon, and replaced that with, replaced it for the old EX4 Galgamon. And I've done some testing with it and really like what it's doing so far. So we'll see if this is the list I settle on. The LM set will be dropping as a video going live today, actually. So the only addition, like I said before, that I would consider are like the scrambles, obviously, as well as like the Gabubond Ace potentially. But otherwise, I don't envision any major structural changes to this deck, at least for now. But that being said, you know, as I go about these general points on how to approach these matchups, you know, hopefully, you know, this applies also to other decks outside of Mirage, right? You know, a lot of what I try to bring up hopefully is very relevant for just any deck going into the matchup. I try to point out some of the big game plans and big things to watch out for that each deck likes to do. So hopefully this has helped you guys as you prepare for other tournaments, for locals, and just kind of getting better at the game too. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I will also drop the link to the previous video of last week down in the video description along with our socials, so check those out. And also feel free to hit that like and subscribe button if you do enjoy the content. You know, the support would truly mean a lot, and we can't thank you guys enough for it. But without further ado here, let's hop right into today's episode, which is going to focus on Purple Hybrid. Alrighty guys, so Purple Hybrid is a very interesting deck to play against, as they can do so much so quickly, but you also have to be wary of all that they can do, not just during that turn, but 2 or 3 turns ahead as well. So you really have to be prepared for this matchup to know exactly what they want to do and how they want to play to do well against it. Any sort of small misplay or small mishap can really turn the tide of the game, and they can really close things out in the blink of an eye. Very similar to decks like Red Hybrid and Lord Nightmon, where the deck can just go extremely fast and leave you in the dust if you're just not prepared to go up against it. It has access to a lot of Tamer recursion, which is where a lot of the deck's speed and tempo comes from, and it does trash manipulation very well, which, you know, if you think about both hybrid decks and purple as 2 different archetypes, it's sort of the best of both worlds there, and it does what both archetypes want to do, again, very well, with the manipulation of trash and with the constant Tamer recursion that it's able to provide. The color breakdown of Purple Hybrid now being more of a purple-yellow fusion also means that it has access to a lot of very powerful yellow level 6 cards like Shadow Seraphi Ace, Valkyriemon Ace, and Venusmon, which are just amazing cards to have access to in a deck that already has an arsenal of control tools at its disposal. So at its core, Purple Hybrid is a deck that likes to go quick, utilize its Tamer loop to really push quick, low to the ground aggression, while, you know, wrapping things up with the aforementioned top-end cards to really seal the deal for its pilot. Now, any discussion without Purple Hybrids is not complete without highlighting the 2 key hybrids that really make this engine work, and they are Duskmon and Velgramon. Duskmon here is a 2-cost Evo on top of a Koichi, and a 1-cost Evo on top of any Velgramon. The Evo effect is absolutely wild, that you can choose to change the color of one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers to a non-white color. Then when attacking, you can go ahead and Evo into a level 4 hybrid in your trash for a reduced cost of 1, which typically you're Evoing into a Velgramon for free. And then on deletion, you can start looping your tamers as Dusk through its inheritables, allows you to kind of do a little bit of crazy shenanigans there too, right? So it really gives you access to a lot of different tools and different things that you can do with your on deletion effects. You essentially, like I said, you can play a tamer with a play cost of 4 or less in the trash without paying the cost. So your goal is to really get your tamers out as quickly as possible. And I think of all the hybrid decks that we've gotten in this new set, Purple Hybrids really just accentuates that that recursion very, very well. Now, the next part of the combo is Velgramon, which is a 3-cost Evo off of a Koichi and a 1-cost Evo off of Duskmon. On Evo, both players will mill 1 card for each color on the field. So if you think about it, right, if you're a smart Purple Hybrid player, you're able to analyze the board state, see what colors are available, and, change either a Tamer or a Digimon to a different color, which can do a couple of things, right? First of all, if you're facing an ace threat, you can't take that ace threat away. Also, if your opponent is stuck on a level 5 and they're about to go into their boss monster, you can take that play away completely, which again is really, really nice. And then on top of that, you gain 1k DP for every card that's milled in total, right? So for example, if you have 3 total colors on the field on your opponent's side of the board, you mill 3 each, meaning that you mill 6 total. Velgar is going to be swinging in at 13k, which is a base 7k Digimon, gaining 6k DP with the mills. Now, that's significant because Velgramon's end of attack effect can only proc if it lives through that security check. So that's a very key thing to keep in mind, right? You don't get that end of attack effect if you die in security, because you see that deletion through battle first before you see the end of attack. So you really want to make sure that you buff up your Velgramon as best you can so that you ensure it lives. Most of the time, 13k DP is a pretty safe bet to be living in security now. So usually the golden number for me is like milling 3. I think milling 2 and putting him at 11k can be a little bit dicey. But yeah, 13k more often than not will live. At the end of attack, you can choose to pop any level 4 or lower purple Digimon to delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. So another absolutely wild effect, and something that you do have to be a little careful with, right? So keep in mind that it doesn't have to be your level 4 or lower purple Digimon. You can choose to pop your opponents as well. So depending on how you want to sequence things and depending on how you want to go about it, you could in theory choose to make like a level 3 or a little floodgate purple, pop that off of the end of attack of Velgar, and pop their lowest level, right? So it does get around like people, if they only have like 1 stack on board, throwing down a low level Digimon to hopefully avoid that. If you can sequence things appropriately, you can go ahead and effectively board wipe multiple bodies with that 1 end of attack effect of Velgar. So do keep that in mind. But like I said, with that deletion, you also get like a lot of color control, because you take away the ace threat, you take away going into a boss monster. Sometimes you take away very, very key important effects by changing the colors of your opponent's field, which is huge in my opinion. But I've talked a lot about this combo play. Let's actually kind of see it in action here real fast. Alrighty guys, so what I've done here is I've taken the liberty of just kind of setting up a little bit of board state here to better illustrate some of the combo plays that Purple Hybrid can pull off. I've got a Gabu in Raising here, and then I've got a Mat in Trash sort of ready and locked and loaded to go, right? So hypothetically, just say they choke you to 1 memory, right? I push up my Gabu. Now I am, if you notice, running the Gabus and not like the Luga AG package. You can do that package if you want, because I still think it's a very strong like recursion loop as well as good sort of memory efficiency with the AGs and the Lugas and being just able to spit out tamers for free. But I'm choosing to go more the like pure Purple Hybrid route. The Gabu can gain you memory, so you could start at 2, but just for efficiency's sake, to illustrate how good this deck can be, let's just say they don't have anything on board, and we start off at 1 memory, right? Then we go ahead and proc Koichi's effect, which is essentially you can go ahead and pitch up Hybrid from your hand to gain a memory. So now we're at 2 memory. We can now choose to Evo off of either one of these 2 Koichis. I'm going to choose to Evo off of this new Koichi here, going into a Duskmon for 2. So now we're at 0 memory. We can go ahead and proc Duskmon's ability to change something to a different color. Say we change a Tamer to a different color. We go ahead and then do a couple of things. We go ahead, swing with Dusk. Proc, you can proc Koichi's effect here to pick up a hybrid or a 10 warrior straight from trash to hand. Typically, if I'm doing that, I'm recycling like a Duskmon back into my hand for future swings, right? And then you can go ahead and proc Duskmon's when attacking ability to go into a Velgar here for free. Velgar then goes ahead and lets you mill a couple cards. We go ahead and mill our cards. Say we just milled, like, for example, 2-3 cards. He does hypothetically live, so now we can go ahead and pop something. Here, if there's no body on board, I think it's safe to just go ahead and pop the Velgarmon. So you pop the Velgar, and a couple things can happen here. So end of attack, you pop it, you pop their lowest level. Duskmon's on deletion will proc. You can go ahead and play one Tamer card with a play cost of 4 or less from your trash, and you can go ahead and either play out this Koichi or this Mat. More often than not, I do like playing the Mat out because it can let me do a couple of things. Playing Mat out will let me pick up a card, so I can either pick up another Dusk if I'm missing it. I can go ahead and pick up a Koichi as well if I'm missing Koichis from trash. More often than not, though, I do pick up the hybrid. And we just keep looping, as you can imagine, right? If we're able to keep turn, you can go ahead, Evo, Dusk, do things again, lock them down, swing, and do crazy things. And you can just keep looping that sort of hybrid Tamer recursion loop many, many times. Another thing you can consider doing is if you choose to instead pop the Gabu off of the Velgar effect, you could, in theory, go into a Rihimon. Rihi lets you play out a Tamer with inherited effects from trash, so you won't be able to play the Mat out, but you can play like another Koichi, for example, etc. And this Rihimon is essentially just another ace threat that they kind of have to think about and to, be forced to deal with. So that's sort of a brief sort of like summary of what this combo loop is. And like I said, very, very memory efficient. With one memory, I was able to start turn, go in, do a check, play out a couple Tamers, pop their bodies, and that was all with just, again, starting turn with one memory. So really, really insane combo there, and of like sort of the bread and butter of what Purple Hybrid wants to do. Now, two other cards that I'm going to highlight for you guys, like I said earlier, was just Rihimon and Gazimon here. Rihimon, like I said earlier, it's got jamming inherit. It's a level 5 that typically will live through the check. And again, just presents that ace threat. Whether you have it or not is another thing. But if you see a Rihimon on the board against a Purple Hybrid player, you always, always, always have to be wary of the potential ace threat. Because if they're able to do that, a lot of the aces that they run can completely change the tide of the game for you. So it's just one of those things where if you can remove it an alternative way, you go ahead and do that, right? Because you definitely don't want them giving a free level 6 that does crazy amount of damage to you in the blink of an eye. So definitely something to be wary of. Gazi is another card that's just so good in today's meta nowadays. This little guy completely messes my game plan up because a lot of my memory gain of shenanigans just don't happen unless I can get rid of it. So I've definitely tailored my deck to find ways to just bounce Gazi back to hand. I do have multiple ways to doing so, and I kind of have to live and die by those ways. If they have a Gazi that I just can't deal with, or multiple Gazi that I can't deal with, really, really hurts me. So definitely be careful because Gazi not just hurts me, it hurts a lot of other decks too. So be wary of just sort of Purple Hybrid and Purple players, right? Just throwing down a Gazi and having like that sort of Chad moment of being deal with me, right? So now we've talked a lot about Purple Hybrid itself. Now let's talk a little bit about how I'm going about this matchups, right? I think with sort of the case with most of my matchups here, an early turn 2 or turn 3 Mirage or Hexablow is never a bad thing, right? Because this combo of top end is really, really suffocating. Mirage does not allow any search. It does not allow for any sort of potential setup because it really just taxes them for trying to play the game. which is why it's gotten such a bad reputation nowadays, right? Purple Hybrid, as quick and efficient as it can be, does take a little bit of time to set up. Turns like 0 through 2, 0 through 3 sometimes are really about Purple Hybrid just setting up both their trash as well as their tamers to really pop off. So if you can get into an early Mirage, that can really, really punish them, because any other searching that they do or any Ukos that they push up definitely can be punished with Mirage. Another thing to keep in mind, as Purple Hybrid does run a lot of Ukos, that search and pickup is mandatory. So if they push up with an Uko either in raising, or they push up a rookie with an Uko out on board, they will be forced to pick something up, which will trigger Mirage. So be wary of that. Whether you are playing against me or any Mirage deck, or vice versa, right? Like if you are piloting this deck and you're going up against a Purple Hybrid player, you can definitely use Uko to your advantage as well. So don't forget about that. But I will say, in this particular matchup, I almost favor seeing Hexablaumon a lot more than I do Mirage early game, mainly because Hexablau gives me a method of bottom decking tamers and just wiping them out of the game completely. Trashing tamers in Purple Hybrid doesn't matter because they're just going to find ways to bring them back out. Hexablau not only just gets rid of these tamers, it takes them out of the game by bottom decking them, and it also negates any sort of when attacking effects from proccing off. So Duskmon will not be able to proc its when attacking effect. Valgrimmon will not be able to swing, so you can't proc its end of attack effect. So for me, hands down, I think the biggest MVP in this matchup is Hexablau. And like I said, Hexablau is a generically good blue card, can be sprinkled into Imperial, can be sprinkled into the red-blue variant of Galaxy, can be sprinkled into so many just top-end blue decks that for sure Hexablau in this matchup is almost like an auto win button. If you can get into an early Hex, you take them out of the game almost instantaneously, and you can push a lot of aggression with Hex where sometimes you just go faster than they do. So for me, absolutely 100% Hexablaumon as like the goated top end card here. Another card that I will highlight is Paladin mode. Again, with how easily my deck is able to go into my top ends, whether it's a level 6 or level 7 with my Koan Silo Tamers, Paladin mode also again is a very good win condition, because I'm able to just reset their trash and just take them from like a good setup to sort of back to square one all over again. So I definitely like Paladin mode as like an out to getting rid of their trash and being able to swing and bottom deck things as well, which is again very, very strong. The only caveat is that sometimes if I'm not able to end game and there's a floating Paladin mode, the overflow of 5 is a very, very big tax. So like if I am going into Paladin mode, it's got to be a very well-timed Paladin mode where I know that the game is ending within like a turn or two at most, right? Or I'm just going for game straight there and then, okay? But yeah, I think those are 3 cards that I've really enjoyed using in terms of Digimon. And then the last one is going to be the new Scramble card that we're going to be getting. As I said, like as of today, the LM set should be dropping by the time this video goes live. Being able to evo into your top end that much faster, or 1 turn faster, like I said, is huge. Being able to also be like top deck things and put things that you need at the top of your deck at the start of main phase can be absolutely clutch, because if you're missing like a Hexablau, or you're missing just a level 4 or level 5 to go into your top end, this card can absolutely rescue you. And on top of that too, with how well Purple Hybrid can do board control, if they've completely wiped out your board, sometimes this is just a nice way to cheat out a rookie and start climbing up a line again too. So I think the Scrambles are definitely a good addition, and definitely helpful addition to this matchup and most matchups in general. So like I said, for me, the things I'm watching out for are really just the Dusk and Valgor combo that we illustrated earlier. One out that I'm able to do at times is to just throw like any level 3. It doesn't have to be Lunamon, could be my Madokis, could be my Galmons. But it is tough because there are also ways to get around just slamming down a rookie and saying that this is my lowest level, sort of like I talked about earlier. But that is one thing that you can definitely do to at least try to force them to play around that mantra. Now, something else to watch out for too, which is very similar to my approach to other matchups like Lord Nightmon and Fenrir Lugamon, is with how strong these removal capabilities are and how easily these decks can deal with my board state, I will sometimes choose to be actually a little bit more cautious. And what I mean by that is, I'll sometimes wait an extra turn before pushing out and almost allow them to make the first move before I do my plays as almost like a countermeasure, right? Now, this can be pretty scary with how quick and tempo-y some of these decks can be, because sometimes allowing them to make the first move is the only move that they'll ever need to really go for game. But I have found this to be a safe counter of ensuring that Velgar Mills are maybe not as significant for DP buff purposes, and sometimes taking away some of the interaction with the board state that Purple Hybrids wants to do. So I'd almost much rather let them do their initial combo play and then pin them down to a spot where I can clap back and counter, right? Because like I said, more often than not, I don't have a lot of things on board if I'm stuck in raising. So more often, I'll often see that like Velgar is only buffed by 1k or not 1k, it's like 2k at best, right? Or like 4k, and they'll go like for a 9k, 11k swing. If they die, then their combo plays are completely null and void. Even if they do end up living, there's not much for them to interact with. There's not much for them to kind of control. And they can do their setup, sure, but then I have enough tools in my toolbox to deal with what they've provided me too. So sometimes I will, like I said, take it a little bit more cautious, let them make the first move, and then try to clap back as quickly as I can afterwards. That being said, like there's always that fine line between being too cautious and going too soon, and it's hard to find that balance, and it's always player dependent, it's matchup dependent, but I do think good players are able to differentiate when to be a little bit more aggressive and when to be a little bit more cautious, and I think that does take some players to that next level. If you're able to read the game that well, then you're in a good spot. And yeah, that'll wrap up sort of the discussion portion of the video. I've done enough yapping. Let's kind of see firsthand in action what my deck can do against Purple Hybrid. Alrighty guys, so we've got myself on the left here playing Galaxy Mirage, and then we've got TJ on the right here playing Purple Hybrids. No DCGO this time around, we just got some regular cam games for you. But TJ's build is very similar to mine. Here I'm like, look, like he's given me enough memory to start establishing like at least something in the back. So I go into his Yi Shui and drop a Luna, just to try to attempt to choke to 1. It's early days, so he doesn't have anything really set up right now, so I felt comfortable just floating the body out there because it's a potential just memory boost as well next turn as well. So unfortunately, he sees the out to it, goes into a Kaiser, and pops my stack. The swing hits a Huankun, so he does end up dying, allowing him to play out the Koichi once again, which is pretty darn good. And here, I'm a little stuck on pieces. I don't have a level 5, so I just go ahead and swing, and unfortunately, I do hit a Koichi from BT7. Since a card effect added to TJ's hand, I do gain 1 memory off of the Gaomon Inherit, and I just drop another Luna to attempt to choke as best I can. So the idea here really was to just say, look, like he still needs some time to establish pieces. Let's just try to keep choking 2-1 as best I can. Just because hand size is small, I was like, yeah, like he may just have to sacrifice his hybrids to gain the memory. So he does end up doing that, which is sort of, I feel like the way to approach early game Purple Hybrid is that you sort of force them to make that decision. And like I said here, for me, since I'm kind of bricked up on pieces, just trying to play out a board so that we can, probably just like throw bodies out there and hope something lives, in hopes of, stringing along some plays next turn. So he just chooses to change the Luna to purple, I believe it was, and then he swings over my ZK. Doesn't have a Velgar in trash, so can't do the Dusk Velgar combo, but we'll go ahead and swing Gazi. Big guy Gazi gives me a Koensayo, which is pretty solid. And then he does go into a Kaiser off of the Koichi to pop my guy. So pretty scary board state, but I was like, look, we still have a turn just because there's no Tamer out on board. So I just go ahead and set up. I just keep digging for some more pieces here. Again, I have a Hexablow in hand, which is why I didn't pick up that Hex. I'd rather see the Gaga to kind of do the Galaxy looping that I can do with my established stack and raising. And like I said, I felt pretty decent knowing that I'll have at like 5 memory next turn. He doesn't have a tamer, so I know he can't necessarily go for game just yet. And he will go ahead swing Kaiser. Kaiser lives. Duskmon, go ahead and swing. Again, no Velgor combo, so it just hits another Coinsio. And I think here he's debating if he wants to swing with Ghazi. It's usually safer here to keep the Ghazi live because of memory gain shenanigans. And yeah, here it's a little bit of a tough spot for me just because he's got a lot of just like low to the ground aggression that I'm having to kind of play back foot on. We do drop a mat just to give myself the 3 memory. He does not proc the on-play effect, and he just goes ahead and passes turn. And here I'm like, I gotta do something. And my best bet here is to probably cycle with the Coincios. And yeah, that's exactly what we do. So we go ahead and tuck the Gauga. We don't gain the we go ahead and Evo off of the Gauga first. We buff his hand size up to 8. We don't gain the memory because of the Ghazi, but I do have a stack that's pretty large. So we go ahead and scramble, and we go into a Huangkun here, which is what I was missing. I think Gauga allowed me to draw into Huangkun. We play out the Luna, but no memory gain, once again because of Ghazi, and then we go ahead and do Hex, stripping all sources and getting rid of the mat. So again, I thought, it's something that'll keep me alive till next turn at the very least, because there's no way he's going to be able to oust this tall Hexablow stack, at least just yet, unless he just rivals me. And I will have a Luna out on board as well, which will be helpful. So we go into a Loey off of the Kaiser. Loey effect should draw 1, trash 1, which I think TJ's just resolving here. But in this situation, in my mind right now, I'm just like, okay, like if I can survive a turn, I can push a lot of decent aggression with the Hexablow and the Luna combo. Unfortunately, no OTK. And then we do see a Rivals, which ends up ending my Hexablow stack. But he does give me a decent amount of memory to work with. And he goes ahead and calls it a day with the Koji here. So we go ahead and pop the Scramble before start of turn, putting the ZK onto top of my deck. Go ahead and then start turn now. And here I'm like, I need to get rid of this Ghazi to do something. The kind of rougher part is that like I won't gain as much like benefit off of like going into a ZK hard. I feel like going into like a Gauga and then tapping a Coinsio would have been a little bit nicer. We just end up going into the ZK, bouncing the Ghazi, which now makes my memory gain stuff live. And then we go into a Gao because I don't have a level 5. Then we go Gauga for 2. We go ahead and draw, gaining 2 memory. And then we go ahead and tuck the Gauga using Coinsio to go into another Gauga because I'm still missing pieces here. We just should gain only 1. We correct that in a quick second. And here I think I finally drew into the level 5. So we go ahead and tuck the Gauga once again to go into Huangkun for free. I get to spit out something if I choose. But I think we're choosing not to, just to keep my stack a little bit bigger. Because again, the game plan hopefully was to go into, I believe, a Hexablow here. Because I believe that will be my only out in terms of like preventing him going for game. Because going into Mirage right now really doesn't do much for me. Yeah, and we do end up going into Hexablow and calling it a day. So here, I'm actually in a pretty decent spot if you think about it. If I just go ahead and promote Madoki, I have means of just swinging 4 checks with Hexablow, and then swinging with the Gaomon for game potentially next turn. And TJ here is just counting how many cards in trash he has, which, he's probably considering like a Jack raid play. The only thing in my head that I'm a little bit worried about going into the next turn is that, option cards, right? Like I could easily hit like a Jack Raid, for example. I could also hit things like Deathslinger, Rivals Barrage, which most definitely could throw a wrench into my plans and probably end the game for me instead of ending the game for TJ. Which is definitely something that's playing in the back of my mind. So I was just like, well, like if there are ways for me to either build into a Mirage or just go ahead and like maybe set up a situation where I just do a little bit of board control before I go for game. That was my hope. But that was probably like the biggest thing playing in my head was like looking at TJ's trash. I know he's already played out one rival, so in my head I'm like, what are the chances of him having another rivals in hand versus it being insecurity, right? Because he's gone through a decent chunk of his deck already. So I'm like, at this point, there's probably some removal option in hand, and if he doesn't punish me with a removal option, there's a very fair chance it's either insecurity or just in his deck, and I just have to gamble at this point in time. So he does pass over 3 memory here, and we decided to go Lekis. This could have been maybe like a greedy play in theory, but again, I was a little worried about hitting an option card, but I wanted to just kind of at least set myself up for a situation where if he does have a, like, I don't know, if he could have an out to it, I was just like, well, let's just get rid of his trash and maybe start bottom decking some things with Paladin mode. Because again, I wasn't seeing all of the pieces that I needed. So we go ahead and swing the Galga first because it does have jamming. So like, okay, cool. Go ahead, swing the Paladin mode ace. We go ahead and choose the bottom deck something to restand. Choosing the Gazimon. We hit a Venus. We go ahead, swing, bottom deck restand, and we do hit the rivals, which does pass over memory, which is a bit unfortunate. And that, I think, essentially will seal the game for me, unfortunately, just hitting that unfortunate rivals insecurity. Which again, like I kind of was talking to you guys about it before, like that was in my mind of like, is a rivals insecurity or not? I ended up gambling, which does end up costing me. But I think also like a good sort of exemplification, right, of like what this deck can do in terms of like the combo plays and stringing things along. Hexablau definitely is a very, very good card in this matchup. And I do feel like outside of hitting that rivals barrage, the game was pretty well in my favor. You could also very well argue that like if I had just swung with Hexablau, I don't pass over that memory and I could utilize that 3 memory in other ways. I think I maybe tunnel visioned a little bit into going into a Paladin mode. So definitely like alternative ways to go about it. Alrighty guys, I think I'm gonna cut it here for, you know, just in the best interest of time. TJ does end up taking the set 2-0, so shout out to TJ for a well-piloted match. But I figured like the first round was actually like a pretty good example of like what the deck wants to do against Purple Hybrid, right? Which is like kind of print memory by tucking your level 4s, utilizing your tamers to kind of climb up a line, build a really tall stack that utilizes Hexablau strengths to its fullest, being able to bottom deck tamers, shut down one attacking plays from popping off. Just a little bit of an unfortunate scenario where I would hit a Rivals Barrage in security. I think TJ only runs 2 in the deck, and I happened to hit the second one in security, which you could argue like maybe I should have thought about it or played around it, but you know, I think I set myself up to be in a good winning spot, and sometimes security will just be security, right? Which is, again, I think a good showing of what this deck can do and what this deck wants to do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video overall in general. Again, let me know if you guys have any suggestions for this series. I'm definitely game to keep improving on this. We've got just about 3 weeks left, so I'm definitely going to be upping the preparation. So you're going to be seeing more of this series as the weeks go by. So thank you all for tuning in as always. I appreciate every one of you. Really, truly, truly appreciate all of you all for just tuning in and showing support. You know, it really means a lot, and it definitely keeps pushing us to be better for you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And hopefully we catch ya on that flippy flip. Bye-bye.